Welcome to our second episode of Tambali podcast. Our conversation today will be about innovating in times of great difficulties and seeing opportunities through the mask. Tambali podcast is your home of bold and resilient leadership conversation with young Kenyan and African changemakers. I'm so excited about the support and feedback we have received so far from our listeners. Continue following us at www.tambalipodcast.co.ke and always remember to subscribe and share. Welcome, Mr. David. Thank you so much for joining our conversation on Tambali podcast. I hope that you are doing well. I'll just please, you can introduce yourself to our listeners. Then you tell us what you do, your passion, and your passionate journey in fostering creativity and innovation, how it started, and what you have been doing in the field of innovation and creativity.
Thank you very much, Morgan, really for the kind invite. And my name is David Ogiga. I'm the co-founder for SoteHub. So SoteHub is one of the first tech hubs outside Nairobi. Before we started this journey, I think you perhaps remember that a lot of hubs were in Nairobi and not upcountry or what you can call mashinani. And especially so the youth in the rural and secondary towns were not able to enjoy the benefits or opportunities that comes to tech hubs. But I think maybe we had Swahili Box and perhaps Lake Hub. But when we came together as hubs outside Nairobi, now we are 26 altogether. I was privileged to be elected as the first substantive chairperson. Looking at the demographics in the country, we have Kenya is a youthful country, a young population. The latest statistic, I think, from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is over 75% of the population is under 35 years. And so my passion is how can we unlock this potential or how can we use technology to solve the triple challenges that youth face. This is unemployment, poverty, and the lack of opportunities to solve the first two. Yeah.
Thank you so much, David, for your response and the work that you're doing at SoteHub and Association of Countrywide Hubs. They say that necessity is the mother of all inventions. And I remember when the first case of the coronavirus was reported here in Kenya, you and your team from Association of Countrywide Hubs took the courage to nurture one of the greatest innovation I can say currently in the country that has been done for the last 8 months. And our listeners would love to hear what motivated you and how was it to start these innovations, and maybe you can take us through the opportunities and some of the achievements that your team has accomplished so far through the innovations that we have.
When COVID struck, we were hardly 2 weeks into office, so we just had an election and hadn't really settled in. And like the first office in a new organization, there's always all these teething problems. So, but we had one choice, either to hold back or to do something about it. And I think we decided to do something about it. If you remember, Kenya, just like the rest of the world, was in a state of panic with all the lockdowns, masks, quarantine, curfew, name it. We were actually living in very strange times. So with my new office, so we usually meet every 2 weeks, 7 a.m. in the morning. So one morning we threw up this challenge to the rest of the guys, and they were like, what is it we can do about this? And in the executive, I have Chepkemoi, Savio, Ali, Luvanda, Carol, Martin, Dorcas as part of the team. And we came up with a plan. And one of them was to reach out to our partners and share with them, because we were looking for how could the innovators play a role in mitigating the negative effects of COVID. So I remember one of the first people we reached out to was Suzy Kitchens. who was a deputy high commissioner of the British. And it so happened that Konza Technopolis had also reached out, and before we know it, we were together, the two of us, so that Association of County-led Hubs and Konza, and we were thrust in the national limelight organizing what now we are calling the Great COVID Hackathon, and officially launched by the ICT Minister, Jim Shero. So just to just a little breakdown on how what we are looking at is we're looking at three thematic areas. So that's in health, decent work, and food systems. And so together with the Konza, who are our partners by then, or other co-organizers, we put out a call for applications for the whole country. So we were reaching to all the 47 counties. This was meant to be a very inclusive process and to bring out the best ideas wherever they are. We had webinars, sometimes some of them organized through the ministries of agriculture, health, and labor. And we had development partners coming through. We had UNDP supporting us, US Marafiki. So I must thank US Marafiki, or GIZ, and the UK Kenya Tech, and the local universities as well. So I really think that really gave us the momentum to really go ahead and be successful. So when we announced this, we had over 300 applications within a very short time span. I think it was hardly 2 weeks. And so we had a tough business to select the top 40. So we had top 40, and then the top 40 went for hackathon. There we selected like top 15 that went to an award process. And now these top 15 are now undergoing what we call an accelerator. Of course, there are different categories of awards by then. But I think for me, one of the success stories is if you look at the kind of ideas that were coming out through and the relevance to the challenge that we had, it was absolutely spot on. For example, we have one of the startups known as Inake that is able to connect workers, especially in the informal sector, to the factories and industries and people who need this kind of service. Between the start of COVID or the challenge until now, they have managed to connect nearly 2,000. Now look at that number within a very short time, getting employment.
Sure.
And then another one was, for example, Garden Fresh, that have a solution on urban farming. And so they make vertical gardens. And within this short time, the last time they reported nearly over 50 clients who have been able to buy this. Another one I will say is Startup Suit, that had a solution on remote working. The other day they participated in Lake Hub challenge and they won some award. And maybe lastly, there's one Swift Lab that has innovation on drones that can able to deliver medical supplies to very remote areas. We have challenge of infrastructure and logistics, very rural areas. So for me, I think is the quality of ideas and the startups that were presented were absolutely amazing. But number two, maybe the last point also in terms of the success stories, is we were able to create a platform that brought government, private sector, development partners, our fellow tech hubs, the university, academia, and the innovators themselves. And so everyone had a space or somewhere that they could be able to plug in, because it was more or less like a rallying point. This is a pandemic. Whatever solution you come, bring it forward. And so that, for me, I think was a great opportunity that we were able to give Kenya, or rather the innovators, an opportunity to be a solution to that challenge.
I want you to try and paint for us, what does the future hold for us based on the innovations that you have seen in the last 8 months and now? What is the future in matters of innovation and technology?
I think it's bright. I would say it's bright. So I'll answer it in two ways. One is for the top 15, the one that you're working with. I think that's already a clear pathway to intro to the market, where we'll have already decided in terms of how long the acceleration is going to take, how is it going to end, and things like that. So I think that's already taken care of. But if I speak nationally, I think in terms of because of my position and what I do is that government and the private sector, that's the players like ourselves, must work together. It must be a deliberate coming of minds. Because I would say, I mean, the challenges of innovators or startups are still the same. Whether it's policy, whether it's lack of finance, whether it's lack of a good enabling environment, and I think this is where government can really play a big role. I'm glad that Association of Countrywide Hubs is one of the leading lights. For example, now we have what you call startup law. Well, it's still a bill sponsored by Honorable Johnson Sakaja. Probably in the next quarter, next year, quarter one, quarter two, it can actually be a law. But I think for us, this perhaps is long overdue because for a very long time, there's no clear definition of startups. Neither is there that bundle of incentives. How do you incentivize young people or innovators coming? Kenya, I think, is globally renowned in terms of what we have been able to showcase. If we talk about the mobile money technology, the M-Pesa, Ushahidi, and so many others. And I think this is a bedrock, and there's much more, but we must be able to give you the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. You talk about there was no legal framework for startups in Kenya, and today there are quite a good number of young people engaging themselves in innovative activities, and are currently, I know that they're tuned to listen to these podcasts. From your own experience, how do you balance the need to come up with something that is creative and authentic, and the need to create something that is useful and function? So, how do you balance the two? And having known that we still don't have really a clear definition or a clear legal framework for a startup.
I think for me, the bottom line is whatever you are creating, do you have a customer for it? Is there somebody willing to pay for it? If you are able to answer that question, you're onto something. If you have no answer to that question, keep searching. There's no two way. There's no way. Nothing else in between. I mean, you're not doing it for fun or experimental, or you're not in high school anymore. Whatever you are creating, it must serve a need in the market, and that people are able to. You are able to monetize it and be able to create value. And I say this because for me, I mean, the way I look at it is there are three reasons why most startups fail, or businesses or innovators, whatever you call it. One is the team. Um, um, you must have a very good team. People who have the same vision and the same goals and focus. But number two is the timing. Your idea should be launched at the right time. If let's say now everyone is facing the issue of COVID, and so assuming you come up with COVID vaccine in 2025, it will be time bad. There's no need for it, and so there's aspect of the timing must be perfect. But lastly is the market fit. So market fit means that it's solving someone else's problem. It therefore means somebody can be able to buy it. And so for any young innovator out there, I think you must be able to look at those three components, and that whatever product you're coming up with is not for fun, it's not for academic, it's solving an issue, a challenge, and it can be bought. So it means you have customers. I think that for me is the most fundamental.
So, thank you so much, David, for that elaborate explanation. And I framed this episode as innovation and opportunities seeing through the mask. So, I don't know what came to your mind when I heard the term seeing opportunities through the mask. When everyone was masked up, you decided to unmask. So, maybe you take us through that.
Yeah, seeing through the mask. Yeah, so that's, I think the way I look at it is to look at opportunities. Um, whenever a challenge or a problem presents itself, is what is it that you can be able to come up with? Uh, I would say going beyond the obvious. And so, mask is meant to protect something, protect your mouth,
Yes.
or your nose, whatever it is, and so that you don't get infected or affected or something. And so, what is it you see beyond that? How can you challenge yourself? Um, there's a famous quote by, I think it's the inventor of Ford Motors, that whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're very right. And I also picked maybe a similar phrase in the Bible that says, "As a man thinketh, so he is." And so I think if you are limited in terms of what you think you can, or what you think you can be able to create, or the difference you can be able to offer the society, then you'll stay in that position. However, if you keep challenging and renewing yourself every day, and that's why we also go to school so that we're able to renew our knowledge. And then you become an instrument of change. And so for me, I look at it as going and out there, challenging yourself and coming up with solutions.
Okay, thank you so much. As we almost come to an end of this conversation, there are young people outside here who have lost their job. There are those who have fallen into depression. There are those who have kind of lost hope because of this COVID 19 and the uncertain time that it brought. So, what is your message to young people who have lost hope, those who are almost falling into depression, those who have lost jobs, and just a message to them and what the future maybe holds for them and what they can do to reboot to Tambali, that is Tambali that we talk about, and continue serving their communities despite the challenges that are there.
I think the worst thing you can do to yourself is to lose hope,
Sure.
to self pity. Um, there's so much you can be able to do. Um, when this door, like they say, if one door closes, another opportunity or another door opens. And so, whether you are whatever kind of job you were doing before, whether you are laid off in the factories, or whether you had tough business environment, we saw that businesses were able to reinvent themselves, were able to become resilient. And what COVID has told us is that this is the era of technology. And so, for example, I remember at Soto, we used to have workshops nearly every week with hundreds of young people coming. Now we had to turn that into online meetings. So yes, uh, there's a challenge, but we had to create and come up with another way to deliver the same results. And so and this is world over. If you look globally, I think they say the top wealthiest people became even more wealthier during this COVID. So
Yeah.
they didn't see a pandemic; they saw an opportunity. And so I think for me that's a bigger message. That don't see the problem you are in, see the opportunities, share out uh, your stories with your networks, with the people around you. They are within your line of career or career history, or there must be people who you can confide in and who helped you before. It's always easy to go back to the same people and be able to ask whether the opportunities, but also be on the lookout and be able to invent yourself. I mean, it also takes a bit of self-discovery. I mean, you probably were working in an office, and so it's not a must that's where you should probably be working. You can still be able to create value in another role, in another department, as long as you don't compromise your ideals or what you believe in. So I think there is a hope, but you will still be able to go above the challenge if you're able to self-invent yourself. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much. If you are able to reinvent yourself, you can always find hope. So, David, as you finish, be free. You can share where we can find your work online, your social media handles, and also the website.
Yes. So you can find our website, that's SoteHub, so www.sotehub.com. So our business incubator based in Taita. But also, if for a lot of information from Countrywide Hubs, the Association of Network of Hubs, the URL is www.countrywidehubs.org. My personal Twitter handle is David Ogiga, and so you can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm more active in those two platforms. Yeah,
Okay.
so otherwise, there are some opportunities also. For example, at SoteHub, we have some ongoing creative challenge, looking for those startups or innovators in the creative sector. Deadline is 10th of January, so if you follow our social media, you'll be able to find all those. And every time we keep posting new opportunities, whether it's at Countrywide or SoteHub, be on the lookout. Yeah.
Thank you so much, David. That was an amazing conversation we had with David. Up to our next episodes, where we'll host an incredible young person who, from the day one when COVID-19 case was reported here in Kenya, he has been at the center of distributing food packs, water, sanitizers, distributing masks, supporting women groups with income-generating activities in his neighborhood. You can't miss to hear the story of Mr. Billion Ojiwa from Madare. Thank you so much, and don't forget to subscribe, share, and give us feedback. Thank you until our next episode. I was your host, Morgan Ochieng. Thank you.